there's so much ceremony around things. Like you'd think, oh, I could never build a bank, and then you basically build one for an investment app. And like we got to like 90% very quickly, but getting the last 10% has been a real grind.
Welcome to Beyond the Brief. Today, I'm speaking with Brian Foody, a founder and engineer who spent his career building companies, products, and systems from the ground up. He was the CTO of Bamboo, where he helped effectively build a bank from scratch. And that experience has shaped how he sees AI and software today. And that's that the code matters less than the understanding of the system itself. In this episode, we talk about building real products and how AI changes the role of engineers and designers. And why Brian thinks that the last decade of software may eventually look like the dark ages. So let's get into it. Yeah, fill me in on your career so far. How did you get to where you are now with vertical AI?
Yeah, okay, cool. I'll do a very quick recap, I suppose. Kind of classic software engineering background, and then realized I didn't want to be a guy sitting there just taking tickets and doing it. Like I liked front end, I liked back end, I liked like creating from the ground up. So kind of went from software engineer to working marketing companies, building, the way marketing companies are, you have to build really quickly because the client has a request. And so really enjoyed that. Then the next natural transition was like freelancing, going out to companies. So working with sort of early stage startups to get them going. From there, moved into actually building startups. So working for Bamboo, where it's a kind of lead engineer / CTO. So we built a bank from the ground up, which is really nice. I mean, I don't know if you find
Very
this,
cool.
but the more you build yourself, the more you realize you can build. Like you just realize there's so much ceremony around things. Like you'd think, oh, I could never build a bank. And then you basically build one for an investment app. And like, yeah, it just makes you like, I don't know, your confidence grows in what you can achieve.
Yeah. That's an impressive product too. I quite liked Bamboo when it came out.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize you were the CTO, so it's you did well there. I thought, yeah.
Yeah, and to be fair, the guys I didn't think of the idea I came on, but like it was a really good idea in that like everyone was throwing their money at meme coins rather than viewing it as something where like if you can put a bit of money into it over the long term. And I think last year there was 40,000 investors and nearly all of them were in the green. But
Great.
like it's nice to have created something that went on. Like in the background, it's still running and it's like helping people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Bamboo is definitely one of those where we had to put a lot of groundwork in, but then it just ran. So then I went, to be honest, after Bamboo, like I did lead engineer role at Ostel on an AI learning project on ships. But then I really got into like indie hacking, so like shipping products fast. And so we go through a few that I did, but like it's sort of this balance. Bamboo was like taking a long time to build something, and then it just ran, and it ran really well, and we never had any bugs. And then you have this other mindset, which is like ship really fast, and then like, a lot of the time you're doing a lot of rework. So I'm still sort of like between those two camps. Like there's a sort of a balance between both where you do product discovery. But yeah, I do see a lot of people struggle with, especially in AI, where they ship quick, but then it's just designed terribly. And then they end up creating a lot of bugs and stuff. So like there's a sort of balance there, I think, that you have to find. Since then we've moved on to vertical AI, which I thought was going to be one of these things that we ship quickly because it was voice AI. We got to like 90% very quickly. But getting the last 10% has been a real grind. It's like I didn't realize how hard of a problem we had chewed up. So you'll see my feature, I was building a load of products, and now the last year we haven't released anything because we've been deep in the weeds of voice AI where, it's like full self-driving. Like Elon said it'd be a year. It's 15 years later. I said we'd have something a month ago. It's like a year later and we're finally nearly there. Yeah, it's definitely one of those problems that is deceptive.
Yeah, I definitely want to touch on that. Thanks for the intro. There's a whole heap there. And so I think for people watching, you're more of an engineer than a designer, but you strike me as someone that has a product mindset, right? So you're not someone that just sort of takes a spec and builds it. You seem very outcomes based. So what is the goal we're trying to achieve? And you just kind of get after it. Is that a fair assessment? Like you're definitely much more technical than you are on the design sense?
Yeah. No, I'm definitely more of an engineer.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I'm nearly too much of an engineer. I wish I was less because like, with AI, you're like, maybe we need to slow down because engineering wise, where sometimes the person who doesn't think like that can get some better outcomes in the AI era. They're not limited by, I guess, what they don't know. Definitely, I'm not good at like design systems. I would like someone who can create a design system. I think is really powerful now because it's like, that's something I would invest in, like, because I don't have that skill. But I'm pretty good on UX and product thinking and the outcome. Yeah. But I do need, like you've seen, I've partnered with Linus a lot in the past, who worked with me at Bamboo. So having someone
Shout out to Linus. He's great. He's
I'll
doing
have
well.
to send him this. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's doing well. But yeah, someone like you or Linus who has that design mindset and continuity, yeah, I partner
Yeah.
well with. Yeah.
I find, yeah, it's absolutely true, right? Is if I've definitely built a lot of things, but I'm not an engineer at your level. And that sort of distance from the code base has sort of helped me a little bit.
Mm.
And probably from the other side as well, right? Like you know how things should be built, but from a design standpoint, it's, oh, that's probably okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you kind of move on, right? So you definitely need the expertise of the other. And it's also, I think you raised something before in your intro, which is great, which is, at Bamboo, you had to really move slow and get it right and then watch
Yeah.
it scale. Whereas this indie hacking thing is all just about shipping super quick and break. And
Yeah.
it's a good tension, right? Like, so what
Yeah.
have you found works best for you? And in this sort of shipping fast mindset, have these tools helped? Like, how do you go about, shipping really quickly?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can ship really quickly. I guess when I ship, I like to like add features. So I'm not a very good at saying like, this is the simple product I've built. So I always like to
Yeah.
think I probably think a little too big sometimes, and I could do it having the simpler products. But yeah, when we built Bamboo, there's this technology called event sourcing, or a mindset of building technology. What that is, if it ends up in the wrong state, you're like, how did it get here? Did this agent update it? Did this person withdraw it? So how we built Bamboo is a thing called event sourcing. So the balance of 1,000 is just a replay of all the events. So I deposited 500, I withdrew 100, I deposited 600. So everything is always like, you've got your event store, and then you've got like what are called read projections. So whenever anyone would call up with a support ticket and say, "Oh, my Bitcoin has disappeared," I'd like pull up their account and look at all the events, and then I'd be able to see exactly what happened. Um, and so like that was very satisfying. Like it was hard. You have to really map things out up front, because like
Mm.
the event comes in and then a process takes it, and then the process might submit another event, and then you end up seeing your balance on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually think it's probably like a really good way to build right now, because the code is not actually that important, right? It's actually like the understanding of the system.
Mm.
So I'm coming
Mm-hmm.
back to event sourcing again now. When I did the indie hacking, I didn't think at all like that. I was like, okay, I can build this quick. I get in the tools, I start going, but like I didn't know what was in the system at the end of it. Like I didn't have the spec really. So like I would find things could break pretty quickly on me. So I've
Yeah.
gone from that sort of really strict engineering. I still did that strict engineering when I was doing consulting, but like on the indie I didn't.
Yeah.
And I did find I kind of missed that like clear understanding of the system.
Yeah. But I
So
guess
now I'm
the
going back.
goal, the goal is different, right? Like you're just trying to get traction. You're trying to find something that people like, and then you can fix it later.
Yeah, exactly. And but then there's like, do you ever get to fix it? That's the other side to it. But yeah, you're definitely right. There's a balance. It's no good having this perfectly engineered product that no one likes. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
balance there.
I'm of the mindset of, like you've said, is you have to understand the system. So I'll spend a lot of time making sure that I have clear requirements and what done looks like. I don't worry
Mm,
so much about the in between, but I definitely review. I use memo diagrams a lot, so I'm always asking my
yeah,
agents,
yeah,
show me visually what does the system look like. So you can have the parts of the system in your head,
yeah, yeah,
but yeah, I'm not looking at the code specifically, right? So
yeah.
that's my
But
way of
you're more
working
of a
fast.
designer. You're more of a designer using these tools to build products. So yeah,
Yep.
it's quite interesting. Like, because we're probably coming at things differently now. Like, if I was to build a new product, I would probably build the API first, and then I'd
Yeah.
have like generate the UI. I'd say, hey, Claude, here's the API. Like, give me 5 versions of this product, and then I'd go from
Yep.
there. Whereas you'd
Yep.
probably come from the other way at it. You'd be like, hey, Claude, this is the design. Now give me the code. It's quite
Interestingly,
interesting.
I did start like that, but the more I lent
Yeah,
into these tools and the way that they work well is I've shifted
yeah,
dramatically to be requirements first.
yeah.
And
Okay.
so my harness is kind of like a grill me session where I
Yeah,
come up with an idea and we go back and forth a lot on how it would work. And it's not about UI.
yeah. Okay.
Once I've got, okay, I can understand that there's value here and this will work, and we generate the requirements. Part of that step is to it'll do a terminal UI first in a markdown file. So
Okay. Yep.
it'll just generate a rough look of it. And I say, okay, the flow feels right there. So I'm not,
Yeah.
detailing it. And then when I'm happy with that, I'll actually get it to generate the design with a rough design system first in pencil. So
Yeah, nice.
it'll just spin up the UI there and I'll review it. Now, generally, that's where most ideas for me die, because the design capability of models is, I still think, awful. And I get to that point and think, okay, this is going to take me a lot of work to refine the experience, and I'll just park it for now, right? But if it's worth it, I'll iterate on that. And so nothing's been built yet. And I do spend a lot of time on that phase, to your point, right? For me, I get the requirements right, but then I spend a lot of time on designing the experience. And then when I'm satisfied, then I say, okay, now build it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
Interesting process.
yeah, it works for me. But
How do you find
definitely
pencil?
I think it's okay. I'm not going to say it's great. I definitely feel it's the best of the sort of AI native applications, and models seem to be able to use it quite well. A lot better than Figma. The Figma MCP is a challenge to use.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't find it super reliable. But I do have the new Figma agent. I got access to that, and it's not too bad. It's good at making broad changes. So there's mechanical changes where it's like update this variant, change this aspect to the design system, but it's not
Yeah. Okay.
creative. None of these toolings yet, I don't feel, have really grokked that, how to design a good UX.
So remind me, is pencil? What's the workflow with pencil? Is it like getting Claude to generate the designs, or is it getting Claude to take the designs, or is it both?
It can do both, yeah. So
Okay.
it just connects to the file, and you can work in pencil with an agent on Canvas where you can choose your model, or
Okay.
it connects to your active session. So you can use Codex, you
Gotcha.
can use Claude Code, whatever.
Okay.
And as long as you've got the file open, it will be able to draw on the canvas and read from and everything like that. But where
Yeah.
the
Okay.
advantage of a tool like that over Figma, which in my view is a massive advantage, is you can feed it context because you're working in your IDE. You would have the code base, right? So you have all your requirements. So I don't really build anything unless I've got like really strong PRDs. So when it's
Yeah. Okay.
designing something, it's not just kind of making something up out of thin air. It needs to meet the requirements. So
Yeah.
it's got more context, whereas the Figma agent I found doesn't. It still just tries to design things. Like I got it to make a dark mode of a particular UI just for experiment, and the results were just awful. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
You
we're
find that
still.
where design is a little like writing, isn't it? It gives you some, like, the first thing looks good, but like over time, it doesn't have that continuity. Like as you read like
Yeah,
long AI prose, you're like, wait a second, this is crap.
yeah,
But it
yeah.
takes you a
It
while to
says a
figure it
lot
out.
without saying anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
the UX is, and also if you don't really know, it's like you with probably the way that you would build a system. If you don't really know what you're doing, you kind of accept what it spits out at face value.
Yeah.
And everything starts to look the same. I see it everywhere. So I think the benefit of these tools is that anyone can now build, but the flip side is that anyone can build. So there's
Yeah.
a high volume of output, and not a lot of, I think, rich quality. So, you see a lot of apps getting shipped to the store, but I don't know how successful they are, who's shipping real products that people are using. So, and you got a lot of
Yeah.
experience in that. So
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I kind of want to touch on that a little bit. Yeah. It's like the way that
Mixed success is part of the indie game. Like it's what a B2C product is like 1% chance. So
yep,
yeah, whereas a
yep,
B2B is five to 10%. So yeah, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of failure.
yeah. But I mean, you've done a lot of it, right? So there's some key
Hmm.
lessons that you've learned in what to do and how to approach creating products from scratch and making them work. So what are some of those lessons you've learned over all the products you've made, and how have you kind of rolled that into vertical AI?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the main thing I learned was like Bedtime Story was an interesting one because it's sort of like the hello world now of like generative AI apps. It's like generating a story, a kid's story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's so simple to do. When we kicked it off, it was just at the start where AI image generation came out. So it was
Mm-hmm.
GPT-2 and the first version of ChatGPT image generation came out. And we just realized that, like, I think probably a lot of people realized at the same time that you could put text and images together and create a story.
Mm-hmm.
And so we shifted into something that looked good because Linus did the design on it and it looked good and he had a bit of a following on Twitter. And so we posted it and it went on this real viral, like, it
Nice.
went hugely viral. And like, yeah, the revenue went up pretty quickly. We threw a paywall up. So yeah, it did really well. But then one thing that we did realize, is we created a sitemap. So every story created went back into the sitemap. And so the
Mm-hmm.
Google SEO grew for like AI stories because everyone who came in, we let them generate one story for free. But if you generated a
Mm-hmm.
story for free, it went into the Google sitemap. If you paid, we didn't put it in. So all of a sudden we had like 50,000 pages which were saying
Wow.
AI bedtime story generator. So I think I didn't even realize at the time that like Linus was the guy who realized SEO was so important because he'd worked on something. But I think that was my first time realizing how important SEO was, because after the
Mm.
viral tail, you get this virality and then like you're forgotten about because X is like a
Yep.
24-hour memory. But yeah, thinking about designing that sort of SEO from the start definitely helps. Because even now, like there's a study, we get 500 visitors a week on Bedtime Story just from SEO. Um,
Nice.
so yeah, SEO was definitely, I underestimated that. And I think a lot of people who ship products don't think about like that distribution element. Like
Mm.
you can do content, it takes a lot of time, right? To create content and you might go viral. Um, that's one way to do it. But SEO is like, if you can figure out SEO, you get a guaranteed funnel
Yep.
into your product.
Yep.
And especially with AI, you want to have enough volume that you can actually test ideas. So, like a little bit of A/B testing. If you don't have that volume, it's quite hard. And Google Ads and stuff now are just so expensive. So if you're trying to
Mm.
kick off an indie product, I always recommend people think about like an SEO strategy,
Yeah. But
because
SEO doesn't work right away, right? Like it takes a couple of months to really kick in.
that's the
And so
thing. Yeah.
you're relying on that virality of the idea first and to get the
Not
impressions.
necessarily. Like not necessarily. It might just take time to like kick in. So trying to find
Yeah.
keywords that are underserved, is sort of the way. It's like the internet's way of like, where's a busy street that doesn't have a coffee shop? Like.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of us don't think that way. Like we don't design products like based on like what the market wants. We design them
Yeah.
because we want to build them. So, like
Yep.
especially in indie, you're like, oh, I've got this cool idea and I want to build it.
Yep. Yep.
So that's the
Yep.
hard part, and that's where you've got to get creative with socials. If it's something that's not like going to have an SEO funnel, but if
Mm-hmm.
you were sitting there and thinking, okay, I want to create a product, that's one way to go about it. Look at like there's like Ahrefs and these places that let
Yep.
you look up which keywords
Yep.
are underserved. That's a good way. Like I did it for another one and I got traffic within like, it was within a few weeks it started to appear on Google, and then like I just kept feeding it, and now it
Yep.
has like, I think I get probably 200 visitors on that. So I'm going to try and build that out a bit as it goes. And the good thing now is
Nice.
once you get traffic, you can like go, hey, you can plug in whatever your AI operating system is, whether it's Claude or whatever. You can
Mm.
have like pull in the analytics and pull in the conversion funnel and just let AI like kind of
Yep.
gradient descent it. Uh,
There's a bunch of
so
systems trying to do that now, right? Like close that product loop of looking at analytics,
yeah,
finding issues with it and self-improving. Like PostHog have got their system coming out soon.
yeah, yeah,
It's a huge opportunity. Like I used to do that myself manually. Obviously, I'd sit there and watch
yeah,
Hotjar recordings and find the issues and then write the tickets. And
yeah.
that's the way for product growth. So I see a lot of
Yeah,
that
it's
happening.
it's made that job. Like humans are not great at seeing like patterns among data. Like we're not really like data scientists are, but like if you're a product guy, like it's generally like there's a bit of intuition, but sometimes you just miss simple things. Like so I went back to bedtime story last week, because we've been working so with vertical AI, we've been working with companies like giving them that AI operating system over their business. So like plugging in data sources and letting them operate that way. And so I went back and like looked at my own products that way. And so with Bedtime Story, I plugged in the Mixpanel MCP and I pulled
Yep.
in the Stripe one. And then I pulled in Vercel for the logs. And I was like, look at all this and tell me where there's gaps. And then it found like there was locations where customers were clicking the subscribe button and they weren't getting through. And so there was a small like intermittent bug that it found.
Mm,
And already I'm seeing conversion go up because there was like a leak there in the funnel.
great.
So it's definitely like, yeah, I think it's becoming easier to run like multiple small products. It's
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have this little assistant come in and help you. Yeah,
And are you
because
running
I hadn't
those
looked
as
at.
like are you running those as like an automated task, a scheduled task, or a routine or something?
I don't do them
What are
as
you using
scheduled
to do
yet. So
that?
no, even when we go to businesses, what I recommend is like spend some time doing it manually first, then turn it into a skill, then run the skill for a while, and then when you're absolutely like you've done 2 weeks of not getting involved, then you can think about making it more scheduled. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like even right now, there's a lot of learnings I pick out even of just like being involved in the loop, and I
Mm-hmm.
still like to keep my head what's going on. I think very quickly things can decay if you're not like in the loop.
Yep.
I mean, we're getting there. I just don't think the AI is there yet. I'd worry about it like slowly degrading.
Yep. Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
think you're right.
because
It's a
we had a
good
guy
point.
who wanted us to had a business who wanted us to put in an agent to do their accounts on routine, and I was like, no, you don't want us to do that. Just
You're
stay
not
in
going
the
to get
loop.
a good
Like
result. Yeah.
we'll reduce it from like an hour of your day to like 5 minutes of your day, but spend the 5 minutes for now because yeah, accounts are
You
not
got
a
to be
place where you want to let an autonomous agent do things just yet. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. It's slow moving. The gains are real, but you can't just hand the keys over just yet.
No, but it's
So
so tempting, right? Because it's like you
yeah,
get it. Do you know that story of the guy who they made a guy people sit in the Uber cars when they were nearly fully autonomous, but they still had to have a
no,
human in
no,
there.
right,
No, so like Uber were like experimenting with self-driving, but there was a guy who had to sit in the car. But he was actually like he did. I think people didn't realize they were like legally responsible for the Uber when they were in there. But there became so little like interruptions that the people in the Ubers like just weren't watching anymore. And then eventually the Uber ran over someone. I think I'm sure if they killed them, but it was pretty serious. And that guy
mm,
who was like being paid very little got like he was legally responsible. So like there's this thing with autonomy where you have to be very careful because you just start like
yeah,
you don't start looking at it and you start like clicking yes for that Homer Simpson meme where you're the
yeah,
bird peck.
yes, the bird.
But like ATO aren't going to care that like, well, you guy can't say, hey, the AI did it. Like you're still
Yeah, that's
legally
right. You're
responsible.
still
So
liable
trying to
for it.
like we try and design the workflow so that the human
Yeah,
has to like be involved a bit more.
yeah.
Because yeah, you're still responsible for the output. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So ease into it, right? So if you're going to improve your product in an automated way, do it yourself first, spend the time to understand what it's doing, see the results over a period of time, and then
Yeah.
automate it. Don't just
But
launch
then,
straight
yeah,
away.
also understand that you will definitely get lazy over time and try and like design something that makes you like snap out of it and like actually review
Yeah,
things. Because yeah, we're just
yeah,
it's human nature to be like, yeah, that's taken care of.
yeah, yeah. So how much of your code now do you actually write or read?
I still do quite a lot, probably more than anyone in the team, really. Like for every hour or two where I do some AI coding, I generally go in and like try and hand code, and then I always spot small things where I'm like, no, that's not what I wanted.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I do a fair bit of hand coding still. I really enjoy it. I guess for me again, it
mm,
comes back to like if you were a good coder, it's even harder to accept this phase. Like outputting code was never really the slow part for me. So yeah, in some
right.
ways, I'm sort of like my own. You become a victim of your own success because you're like you don't want to give up the thing you were good at.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I
And
still
all,
think I still think it's a benefit for me. But over time, it probably might become like a liability for me as they get better.
but
I'm not sure.
that's a good point actually, because you know what good looks like. So
Yeah,
it's probably frustrating for you. It's probably the last 6 months or so where you would give it a task and you would see the output and say, "This I wouldn't write it like this. I'd
yeah,
do it this way." Whereas I'm the same with the design, right? I look at it and think, "Oh,
yeah,
this
yeah,
is awful. Do not use this." So for you,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's probably more painful in the short term because you're having to correct its mistakes and work with it
yeah.
in that way. So, but do you see it getting better? Ha, has it given you the ability to sort of think more about architecture or standards quality, or but how is it impacting your development workflow?
Yeah, I mean, I read a really good post the other day, and it was like you should be able to do this with with the non-frontier model. So you should be
Yeah,
designing the system in the way where the coding task is actually really easy. So
yeah,
coming back to the bank, like when we did event sourcing, say you submit, so you have a Bamboo portfolio and it's split 50-50 between Bitcoin and Ethereum, and you say,
hmm,
I want to invest $100, okay? That submits an event to invest $100. Then a process listens to that and it says, okay, let me look at your portfolio. Your portfolio is split this way. You've asked for $100. I'm now going to split that into separate trade requests. And so it
hmm,
submits a trade event. And then there's another process which looks at those and goes, okay, this is a $50 request for Ethereum. I'll look at the Ethereum price and I'll look at
hmm,
this and I'll buy this amount of Ethereum, deducting the fees. Then it submits it back. And then there's another process. So when you design the system like that, each individual piece of code was actually really easy. It was like, but if you asked AI to do it all together in one, it's really hard.
yeah,
And then if there's a
yeah,
bug and you go, hey, there was a bug in this, but like it's a big, huge file, then like very
yeah,
quickly you're like just spending your time on rework. Whereas like the
yeah,
other one I could do with like AI models from a year ago. So there is this
yeah,
sort of trade-off where the better they become, you can also become lazy and just like design really terrible systems.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
you get locked into like when Fable came out, I had it spike up something. And now I realize none of the other models can actually like work with it because it was so complex what it created. So you can very quickly like I'm already vendor locked into a model that doesn't exist anymore. So
yeah,
when Anthropic IPO, if you're not designing your system right, all of a sudden you're like you've just locked yourself
yeah,
into a lot of cost. That's something to be very careful of. I think you should be able to do the coding tasks with a pretty dumb model. Like that would be a challenge, I think, for a lot of companies. See, can
Gemma
you actually
4
do it?
running locally or something, or just something
Yeah,
small.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you
It
touched on
kind
a
of
good
falls
point
down a
there.
little with UI. With UI stuff, it needs a bit more intelligence. But yeah, on the back end, I think it's more system design. Yeah.
Yeah. I think of the UI side of things super interesting for me. I experiment with a lot of tools, and you're right. You mentioned previously about design systems, and they, interestingly, it's something that I just don't like doing in Figma, is creating these really rich, large design systems by hand, because it's
Yeah.
just
Okay.
mind-numbing. It's mind-numbing work. But when you have a really established one, clear patterns, then yeah, it's agents love it. They can build
Yeah.
sort of better UIs, but not better UX. You know, it's not going to pick up the human experience of, you can
Yeah.
turn those 3 clicks into 1 if you use this sort of animation and state change or something, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's for me is where I like to spend a lot of time. But there is now a convergence of tooling on catching the sloppification of UI, right? So a lot of players are looking at ways to,
Yeah.
whilst you're building, catch that drift. I find agents love to, they're really lazy, and they just love to build new components,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. They
not
do,
use
don't they?
variables. They just do their own thing. And so you have to set these strict rules on them. And there's a lot of tools now that try to catch that, and also try to catch UI problems when it's built. So it'll point out all the, oh, you're using a purple gradient, those sorts of
Yeah.
things.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think it's moving in the right direction. And for me personally, I am excited about it, because it gives designers the ability to iterate more and to build. Because like with your products, you have to learn really fast what the problems are. And I feel like with a designer, if they're building statically in Figma, they're not really seeing all
Yeah.
those edge cases and all the mistakes, and you know, it's nice to design a happy path, but it's another thing to actually see a user engage with it and see their failure points. It kind of makes you a better designer to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
So I am a big fan of designers using these tools, but it is a really big shift to get
Yeah.
designers who have been traditionally focused in a design program to open up Codex or Terminal or something like that and start building. But
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because I remember, the guy. What's the guy who runs Basecamp? You know that one. He's always
DHH,
DH. Yeah, I think they force their designers to use HTML because they're like, the designer should be using the material that's the same tools that the developer is going to use. Because
yeah,
a lot of the
yeah,
time, like the developers in Figma putting on these gradients, and then it's like they don't realize that that's like a lot of work for the developer, which may be less
yep,
now, but
yeah.
yeah, it's probably a lot easier to work like that as a designer now, where you're actually in the same
Yep.
space as the developer. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you get so much more empathy for engineering,
Yeah.
so it used to be this, somewhat butting of heads. I want
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
animation like this, and so
Yeah.
if you can build it, even if it's crude, you can ship it to an engineer to say, this is kind of what I was thinking,
Yeah.
and they can look at it and
Yeah.
review. So I love it. I think it's a fantastic period that we're sort of wandering into.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to touch on vertical AI, because it's a very
Yeah.
cool product and a very cool idea. So I have a sort of similar product for small business, unrelated to voice, but voice was one of those areas that I did want to get into. I did want some sort of thing that could call subcontractors or staff members and support them, when I saw vertical AI, I thought, fantastic, Brian's done it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's built this system, and I know from my brief experimentation just how hard it is to not only get the latency correct, but also the cadence of the conversation and making it feel really natural, and then taking all of that and turning that into something that can action itself in a customer's system.
Yeah.
Super complicated. So
Yeah.
I was really impressed by your latest video. And so I'd love to talk about the product itself, especially how it's 100% Australian hosted, and how you kind of got to where you are now. And if possible, see some form of demo of the design. Like, I'd love to see how you created the website, for instance, and some
Yeah.
of the
Okay.
assets and things like that. Share the product with the audience. It'd be great.
Okay. Yeah. I guess some background on it is like I've been playing with tools a lot for my kids. So I found generative AI was a creative tool for me first, like something I could build new products with it. And so one of the things I built, we called it Sprout Player. Me and David Burrows built it. So it was like an interactive audio experience for kids. So we cloned Winnie the Pooh's voice was out of like patents. So you could use Winnie the Pooh's voice and you could use this thing. So we cloned Winnie the Pooh voice and we made games for our daughters, which was like guess the animal and things like this. And it was really
Excellent.
good because you could prompt it to say like, don't give too much up front, progressively give more of a hint.
Yeah.
And they really loved it. But like what we found was kids are like the hardest test audience because they don't wait patiently and the AI
Mm,
just wasn't there yet. So this is an idea we'll revisit again. But I went to Free Fest and showed off the product. And then a friend who works, they have a lot of contact center traffic. She was like, could you use this for contact centers? And I said, yeah, there's no reason you couldn't. So we did a sort of design partnership with him to implement it there. And then we realized everyone is going to need this. So we went down the product path with it. And so a lot of what we've been doing is it, when we built it for him, it took like 4 weeks and it was all like custom Python code. We were like, okay, this is not going to scale like 4 weeks per person. So we did go down we were talking to enterprises, but a lot of them is just too long of a sales cycle. So we more worked on getting the cost to create it down. So right now you can create it with an MCP. So you can create an agent very quickly with an MCP. So after this, I can send you a login and you'll be able to create your own voice agent. So we can get the
Amazing.
kind of cost down to creating a voice agent to about, realistically, it's probably a couple of hours. The first one can be like 10, 15 minutes. I mean, we can try creating one on this call. Or on this
Live
thing,
demo. Love it.
maybe. But you do need to like train it and give feedback. So you would call it up and then
Yeah.
you go into the MCP and say, hey, you should say this instead of this. But yeah, the hardest thing about all this is, number one, you have to be really quick to respond. So even though all the frontier models have accelerated, we're still stuck back on like GPT 4.1, Gemini Flash 2.5, or Claude Haiku. So they're the only really 3 models that can give you fast enough speed in Australia. That you can access through Australian inference. So even though things have got really intelligent in voice AI, we're stuck back like from a couple of years ago, nearly intelligence.
And that's due to just because you need Australian residency and they don't allow those
No,
models?
it's due to the fact that you have to respond very quickly. And
Yeah,
like, that's
okay.
just not a focus of the frontier. They're all focused on like long running agentic tasks. They don't really care about how quick it takes. They're being focused on thinking models. So when you go into Claude Code, for example, you know, the way it goes off thinking, like none of that stuff is available to you. So you have to design certain elements around it. Then you have to have something reviewing it because it's not as intelligent. You need more review to make sure it's staying on track. And yeah, then doing it in Australia is even harder because a lot of the voice stuff wasn't available to us. So trying to keep it in Australia. So it has been doing AI on hard mode. But that is also like, that's been the challenge. What we happen, probably one thing we need now is like about 0.3 of a second to come off the LLM inference. So how the voice AI works now is you have someone talks into a phone, that goes into like a whisper model, gets transcribed to text. The text gets sent to an LLM, which gives output text, and then that goes down into the text to speech. And so that all has to happen within like by a second. That end to end has to happen in a second. So the whisper part is good, that's fine. The LLM is generally the bottleneck, and that's where we're stuck with the lower level ones. So we just need like we've played around with some open source ones, but they're still just not intelligent enough. So we do want to host that LLM ourselves in Australia and do the inference ourselves. But it's sort of, we're self-funded startups, so there's only so much we can do. And I'm hoping just a model drop just takes care of the problem for us in the short term before we host ourselves.
So you've had to almost build like your own 11 labs.
Yeah, and it's funny, my friend was in America and he's seen a guy at 11 Labs and he compared it directly to full self-driving. They thought it was, even 11 Labs thought it was going to be a lot easier. Like, I don't know how much funding they've raised, 250 mil or something. So yeah, let me see. Let's try
That's
and create
amazing.
one here. So first, I can share my screen here and show you the one on the website. Share my entire screen. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Sure can. Thank you.
Move this out of the way. What am I doing? Vertical AI. So the phone picks up in less than a second now. The website, we haven't pushed that change out to the website. So yeah, here's some beautiful design that one of our guys has done. So you can try a call. You can either call on the phone or you can talk in the browser. I actually really like the design. It's very interactive. I like that you actually,
I like that you actually use the product on the site. I think that's a great feature. I'm seeing that as more of a trend lately is, you know, why not, right?
Yeah.
Don't hide things. Okay.
Hi, how you going? I think it's hearing some background noise here from us. So it's good.
Right.
It's actually called let's call the phone number here so I can demo it. The phone number is actually probably better. You can try this afterwards. 93.
Good morning. You've reached Vertical AI. I'm Sarah. What brought you to us today?
So yeah, I mean, ultimately it's about getting like, it has been a lot of engineering, like just getting times down is a huge part of it. And so what we've added in as well is like quickly scaling out the integrations. So yesterday we had a customer who wanted HubSpot integration. And so we have like, we've developed it in a way where we quickly had integration. So as you talk, you can, you can you can plug up those integrations. I'll try and get into the test side of it where we can use text, because we also do text. So let's try this one. Doo, doo, doo. So this one is just a demo one we did everyday
So how do you plug
super.
this into small business? Like, does it because it moves beyond just the phone call, right? So it acts on their behalf, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so it plugs up to their phone system in general. So we are talking to some companies about, you can also put it in an app, so it can replace something like intercom to be. But yeah, generally it's pretty easy to hook up to your phone system, and then we have like there's things like a tool to call forward. So a lot of people can just do a quick call forward. So we do a transfer to human in here, and you can put in the number to transfer to. But what we're finding, we spent ages doing a lot of fancy UI stuff, and now we're finding it's just like an MCP is the way to interact with this, which is quite interesting. All the interface design we did. So we have a
Yeah.
knowledge base as well.
I agree with that. You know, the more I try to build things out with the custom UI, the more I realize I don't want to use the UI. I
Yeah,
want to
exactly.
interact with the service through my IDE, whether it's Codex or Cursor or whatever. It seems to be the way things are going. It's almost a more enjoyable experience because every time you open up a software product, you have to learn the UI, and every team that's created it has a different way of interpreting your need, and you have to try and figure it out. And if I can just use an agent that interacts with the endpoints, and it figures it out.
Yeah.
So it seems to be the interface of the future.
Yeah, and I think for us as a startup, like that's one of the things we've realized. Like, I think like you have like a certain amount, it's like a video game. You have a certain amount of resources, and if you're fighting someone else, like you need to make strategically bets. So like, really, one of the bets we've made now is that like there won't be much of a user interface. So you can see the user interface is not like great; it just has things in it. But here I've asked like for opening hours. You can see it's grounded in like the knowledge base. So like for a lot of people, just simply voice agent with knowledge base does a lot of it, and then a call forward. You know, like so much of it is as simple as that. Like that frees up your team from like so much crap. Like they actually get to focus on a lot of the hard. And then like the simple like things like looking up an order. So when we look at a lot of companies, 80 to probably like 80% are just very simple. Like there's no reason that voice AI can't handle them. And they can handle them 24/7 very easily. So everyone has these out of hours, just like we're not here. So like a lot of our thing is just like, just turn this on for out of hours and like help your customers. And there's no reason you can't, like your sales team can't wake up to the CRM populated with 5 queries in the morning. So yeah, I'll show you the MC.
Yeah,
No,
please. I guess I think there's been a lot of hesitation around that type of service previously, right? So a lot of businesses don't like the idea of chatbots because the experience is not great, right? And while some of these sorts of services look like chatbots, they're so much better and they are actually capable and can get it done if they have context, right? So are you building a custom knowledge graph, or you're scraping the business's knowledge and setting that up for your agent to access, or how are you handling that?
Yeah, we do have custom scraper that we built. So we have our own thing built on top of something called Parse. So any site we can quickly like develop a knowledge base for them. But I mean, it depends on the customer too. There's this sort of offering where we can offer something fast and cheap that they train themselves, or we can spend time working with them to craft it. So we can do both of those. So if we look at yours is Overflow.
OVRFLO. That without the E. .studio. Take the E out.
That's Studio. And so let's try and create one for you, I guess.
Take the
OVR.
OVR.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. That's it.
Look at that beautiful one.
There's my gigantic orange head.
What would you like to handle in it? Just general inbound inquiries?
Sure.
Okay. So let's see how we go here. So yeah, we've a pretty comprehensive MCP. And one of the good things is like, especially when we talk to I remember talking to CEO and I was like, how do you know that the contact center, like that the customers are happy or what's going on? And he's like, I've no idea. Like we just do a weekly status. And I was like, way to look into it. And so one thing when you just like build it from like AI native from the start, like for me as a CEO, I'd want to go in and say, hey, give me a summary of the contact center yesterday. And then pick out one call where the customer was really pissed off.
Yeah.
I know like you're getting such a quick temperature check for your business then. Like, I don't know, for me, like I call it customer driven automation. Because a lot of companies are like, we need to embrace AI. And then they go into a boardroom and they're planning things out. And then they're like, okay, we need to get our data lake. Whereas our sort of
Yep.
idea is no, like first get the flow of information from your customers. Like that should be the driving force. So yeah, once you have a voice AI answering, like and even then, if you're not answering all the calls, it can still take in the summaries. But once you have the
Yep.
system there, it might be answering some, it might be going to the contact center for others, but all of them are feeding into like an MCP that you have where you can read them. And so like you're very
Yeah.
easily able to like, even if you're in a boardroom planning it out, like show me an example of where the customer had this problem. Like, is this actually a problem for a business?
Mm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like letting that drive the automation of your business. Okay, so I was looking up your LinkedIn now.
Oh, look at that. Like
Yeah,
if you're right, like the benefit comes if you can get a lot of information in one place quickly. So as it's kind of happening, if you can capture everything in one place, this type of tooling is so powerful for small business. Because you're not waiting, you're not paying this. I find that as a team scale, they pay this sort of coordination tax where this person has to tell that person, has to write that down, and this just takes all that away. And everybody has access to that context immediately. It's a mindset shift in terms of how you work, right? And once people figure it out, it's just so incredible. So I like that you've captured that, but I also like that, you've gone for a very sellable idea first, which is, look, it makes phone calls. You can speak to this
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
but there's
yeah,
so much more under the hood there that you've actually built.
yeah. And that's where you're like,
It's really cool.
this is one idea where I stayed very simple compared to my indies, where I like say I'm going to take over the world with this idea. It's very simple. So here, how should the agent handle pricing on calls? Quote from prices. Um, don't quote steer to call or full detail.
Yeah, go full detail. Let's go. Just do it all
Call
for me.
outcome. Do you want to capture inquiry as a message, book into a calendar, or message and booking?
Let's go both. It's great.
So let's see how we go here. So ideally, this
Yeah.
should be able to answer for your business, chat to them, and then book in your calendar or whatever.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, we're probably the integration work might need some manual, but we'll see. The guys are doing a
That's
great
okay.
job on the MCP, so let's see how we go. But yeah,
Fantastic.
you can see how quickly like we're not asking
Yeah.
people to like, I don't know, people have this idea that, oh no, it's a new system, it's going to be like a lot of work. Like if you're actually like AI
Mm.
native, it's very easy to plug this in and it's not going to be much in your workflow. And what we're looking at now for like, even from a small business perspective is we realize like the AI operating system is quite important as well. And making it sort of, we don't want Australian businesses to get locked into US companies. Like for us, I
Yes.
think that's just like, we do not want that. We don't want every small business using Anthropic, right?
Yeah.
We've seen with Fable, it's just able to like, you can't be a small business or even a like a business competing on the international stage and your peers in America are using a higher intelligent model while you're using another one. We're in a good
Yeah.
place in Australia where we can sort of play the US, China off each other and get what's best for us. So that's one area we're really passionate about is sort of making, the inference layer not dependent on US tech.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think
And
that's
we're trying
super
to,
important. And you're right, but most people will just launch Claude and start having a play. That's their AI strategy, is just to tell people to start using it. But it's not a great long-term approach at all. I completely agree. I get the feeling that, local models are probably like 6-ish months behind Frontier. And I'm seeing a lot of progress. In Zeta, I just released a model yesterday, which was quite good, but you still need quite strong hardware, right? You need the 20, 30, 40 grand's worth of hardware to run these models on your desk. So, and
yeah, and it's a lot to ask of
it's
people, yeah, to like invest in that.
yeah, it's slow going though, right? Like if you start small, like with they could see the benefit of it. Then the cost becomes negligible when the benefit is there. Like to purchase the hardware and have it in the business, uh, you know, it's kind of a no-brainer when you see it working
Yeah,
and the power that it can give the business. So
yeah. One thing I would say
yeah,
to any small business if they are going to do it is make sure you turn off this help improve our AI models. So if you're using Cloud Desktop, it's just like, especially like Cloud Desktop is a good place to like sort of have a play, but then you should be using something more open. Like we try and work with them to get them off it, to be honest,
yeah,
so that they
yeah,
can access any model they want. Also, a small business, you want to like the main problems SMBs have, or small business as well, is they want to create a lot of social content. They want to like
Yeah.
automate a lot of customer inquiries. Social
Mhm.
content is actually like you're better off with Gemini and ChatGPT models, whereas the automation part you're better off with Anthropic models. So you don't actually you want to like select the best model for the job. So having
Yeah.
something, so yeah, turn off that setting. Don't train American companies. Then we also have, yeah, we're adding in this layer to vertical AI where the companies can have their chat layer.
And then they can just
We're,
embed that wherever in their digital, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So here we have a Claude Auto. So we do
Mm-hmm.
have a sort of a routing layer. So if you ask for the weather, it shouldn't go to Opus, like what's
Yeah.
the weather down south. So for most businesses, they're not going to be selecting which model they're using. Whereas like you want like a
Mm-hmm.
router in front of it. And let's check back to see. By the way, I love your product design. I think it's a good time to give you a shout out here.
I've been behind the shadows my whole career, so putting my head on a website
Yeah.
makes me deeply uncomfortable, but I kind of feel like I have to do it. So
Yeah. And I had to record videos on the weekend and I was so hard, but you have to
yeah,
do it right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. But there is a
Okay.
new version coming, which is AI native too. So I'm moving off of a CMS stack and rebuilding from
Cool.
scratch. Okay, great.
I'll say it's blocked on the dev. Create it in prod. So yeah, we have a dev and a prod environment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I wanted to create it in dev and I didn't have it authorized. So we'll try and create it there.
So in building this product, what are some of the key, like, I want designers to be able to look at this and get an understanding of how, like, what lessons can they learn or how could they apply some of your learnings into their own stack? Like, what kind of problems have you faced from going from an idea to where you are now, and sort of
Yeah,
how have you, have you solved those?
question. And from a designer perspective, I mean, for us, we started definitely with a customer problem first. So like this whole solution came from actually like a customer asking us to build something and then realizing that
Mm-hmm.
that was going to come from a lot of people. So, that's a lesson that's hard for me to learn because I always want to create something really fancy, but like starting with an actual, like someone asks you to solve a problem, then there's probably like 20 other people who want that problem solved. So like that's a good point to be like, as a designer, you get asked to work on a solution and then you might go, hey, actually a lot of people might want this. You have the skills to create the design. Then you go into something like, so I think for designers, work is probably a good place, or
Yeah.
cloud, like I did say not to get locked in. I don't want businesses locked in, but for designers, use the best and free thing that's there right now.
Yeah.
So you can go in here and like talk to Cloud Code, get it hooking up, take your designs, build something out. You got like a Stripe MCPs. One thing I'd show you here is story time. This is Bedtime Story here.
Yep.
So if I do, yeah, of course I run Claude with dangerously accept permissions.
Always.
The way.
Is there any other way?
So yeah, I've got Mixed Panel and Stripe hooked up. So like there are
Yep.
two things you can do. So here I can say, how is the conversion funnel looking for the last 4 days since our changes? So I did do a big analysis on this.
I think it's worth pausing on that point just there, right? Like the traditional method of getting that information, you go to Mixpanel, you log in, you might not even have a report there, so you have to look through the default, or you have to set up some sort of custom report. The whole thing could take you, 5-10 minutes just to get through. And here you're just converting that entire process into natural language, and it's figuring it all out and giving you the data straight back. Like this is, whilst, a designer will look at that interface and go, gross.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what is this? But, when you get past that, the experience is actually great because you're just thinking and you're turning that thought into text and you're getting the result you want.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So an example with a context example would be, so we went out to, when we were doing some discovery, we worked with some smaller business. So Steve is
Mm-hmm.
a guy who runs a business called Effortless Superhuman. So he's a
Mm-hmm.
functional medicine guy. So I don't know if you know the functional medicine space, but their sort of premise is that traditional medicine is quite broken. It's like specialists everywhere.
Okay.
And like a lot of people bounce around the medical system because, I don't know, an example he gave a long time ago was a guy had really tight hamstrings and kept going to the physio and not getting it, like nothing was working. And he ended up, he had parasites in his stomach and his body was just completely inflamed. And that was causing, like the tight hamstrings was like a downstream problem of like something completely different. So functional medicine starts with like look at your gut, look at your bloods, like look at your body as a whole, and then try and find like, is there a root cause behind all of this stuff? So what he does is people come into him, he'll get a gut sample, he'll get a DNA sample, get a blood sample. And so he's got to synthesize a lot of information. And so each patient was costing him 60 minutes. And so when the team went in, so quite similar to what you see here, where I've plugged up Mixpanel and Stripe, we plugged up a system that's like secure to pull in patient information. We put in a couple of MCPs, and all of a sudden he's got a central place we can pull all that in. And we designed it then with a couple of like human, like considering that like we don't want someone to get like just over time kind of skip steps. So we worked with him to know what steps he needs to be involved every time. And so he went down from like 60 minutes per patient to 15 minutes. And this is a guy like diagnosing chronic pain. So like if you can accelerate these type of people, like there's not many like him. So like it's a huge win, really.
It's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, it is if you're a business owner, you look at that and you want a piece of it. Like that's what you want. It just get.
Yeah. So where's our? Yeah. So here's back to our checkout funnel. It actually looks.
There you go.
Anyway, it's got some analytics here. So our subscription errors have gone from 22 to 1. So we've solved our subscription errors problem. So there was imagine that me as an engineer, there was a subscription error. So like just being able to get information in, you can spot so many things.
You've been around for a long time building things. So you've done everything by hand. You've seen this technology come in. You're now using it to accelerate the way that you do things. What's the end game here in your mind? Like where do you see things going? As intelligence improves, I have no doubt that you slammed Fable as hard as I did. I walked away from that thinking, I mean, it was another level up, and I thought it was pretty excellent. These things are just going to get better and better. Where does it leave software engineers and designers in your mind? And where do you see it going?
Oh, big question. Yeah, I guess I come back to that idea of like, you still don't want it to create, there's a saying I like, which is like, don't outsource the thinking and like you outsource the doing. I still think as the human, you want to like understand your system. Like you still want to be in control of it somewhat. So I still think humans are needed for that like system design. I think there's going to be a lot more tooling around like visualizing what the agent is doing and understanding it. So being able to digest that. I think we're going to see a lot more in that space. But I just think when the Anthropic CEO said AI is going to write 90% of the code, like I didn't fully appreciate that what he was seeing was that there's just going to be so much more code written. It wasn't necessarily that it was going to like take 100% of what's written and do 90% of that. There's also the fact that like it created a whole new 90%, right? So yeah, I just think there's just going to be so much technology. I don't know. I'm not seeing the like doomer scenario kicking in where there's nothing to do. I just think there's going to be a lot to do. Like a lot of the software, I actually think we're in the dark ages of software for the last 10 years. I go out to some people and I look at the software they're using. And I'm like, this is just, how did you work like this for 10 years? Like, this is terrible. Like, they're like having to pay someone a few grand to like move a button around. So like, I think there's just so much, even look at like architecture, right? Like you look at the architecture back in the day and you look at the architecture over the last 20 years, it's terrible, right? So hopefully we can get back to just like a bit more craft in everything we do. That's kind of my like real optimist scenario. Like there's a bit more bespokeness to things. There's a bit more love for what we do. We get out of the software dark ages where it's 20 grand to add a new web page or update a button, things like that. Like you see the value you're delivering for clients by yourself. You can dream a bit bigger, I think.
Yeah, I think you've touched on a really good point there. It's that increased cost makes things worse. And it's the same like construction, architecture, you look at that and the average, you can argue, you go look at those stone carved buildings from way back and we have lost something there. And it's that because that cost is expensive now. I've seen technology where you have robots now that can do stone carvings so that those intricate sort of stone carved buildings can make a bit of a comeback because the cost goes down. And definitely with software, you're absolutely right. Like the cost of, like you say, moving a button, it shouldn't be high. And the doomers would say, oh, you don't need engineers anymore. You don't need to like have people, anyone just going to be able to generate the stuff. So the industry's over. I kind of agree. The more I use it, the more I see it going the other way around where, well, if the cost comes down, people will come up with needs for it because I'm speaking to a lot of people now that are not engineers, they're not designers, they're not even in the industry, but they're building personalized software. Like, I just had this idea, so that you get this explosion of use cases, which means you get this explosion of need to help with those use cases. So I see the amount of developers will probably go up. The amount of design becomes really important. And like you're dead right. It wasn't 90% of the existing code that was getting written. It was a new 90%. I really like that.
Yeah,
and I think he was wrong about I think there was a comment that Dario made about software developers not being needed or something. I think that's totally wrong. And I'm sort of seeing that in hiring as well. So some of the other companies are now.
Yeah, I mean, he wants you locked into pay. But like I said, a good challenge for any software engineer is to be able to build what you're doing with a lower level model. Like, have you designed the system in a way, or is it like, I now need a 10 million context AI, which is going to take the whole code base because it's so scattered. And I mean, that's like just money in the bank for Anthropic, right? It's like, hey, in order to make one change, like we just talked about, like reducing costs. If making a change, like agencies might have charged you $5,000 to do it, but if you have to pay Anthropic like a huge token cost, there's a similar like manner where like if you design it, you're going to get lower costs. So
I actually, you're right. Like I see a lot of businesses jump at the opportunity to deploy this technology, and they run these little sort of pods. They try the experiment, and they quickly find that they keep running out of tokens, and they have to get on the max 20 plan across X amount of users. And then they realize, hang on a second, this is a massive annual cost that I have to pay. And it's definitely the most expensive subscription that you can probably get over a broad team. But if you compare it to other costs in the business, like what it's saving, if you get the value from it, it's not too bad. But you're still locked into, as you say, that provider. So it's not as magical as people make out to be, I guess. And
there is a magic to it, but it's very easy to get vendor locked. And I mean, also a lot of businesses have they want to push more code, but they don't want to pay the bill of, like, if you're going to push more code, you need to be able to evaluate the quality of it. And like, that's usually the hard part up front. Like when we built Bamboo, I could ship to production because I had like 100% test coverage. And I knew that I wasn't going to break the system. But like, if you have a legacy product and now you see AI and you're like, ooh, I want some of that, but you're not paying the bill up front to, like, you're just creating more bottleneck on the test side, okay? And you're creating more bugs and reworks. It's kind of like a fat person who wants to eat more cake, but like, no, you got to get in shape first, mate. Do some there's a bit of work to do first there. Like, you just can't
get your test suite in order. Yeah. And that's a really good point with these sorts of systems, is that I'm the same. You have to have really robust test suites and as many edge cases as you can think about, so you have confidence that it's producing something that's not going to break.
That's something we struggle with on vertical AI. Is like, voice is actually really hard to quality gate. It still like needs the human in the loop a lot. So like, we'll look at the text and go like, okay, the text looks good. And we do have a voice AI model that can like evaluate, but it's not a human level evaluation yet. So the evals will say everything is perfect, and then you call it up and you're like, whoa, that was horrible. It like interrupted me. It's such a human experience still.
Yeah.
And it's probably the same in design. Like, you can't fully automate design evaluation or UX, things like that.
Completely. Yeah. 100%. And, I will run all the tests on what I build, and it'll say it's done and it's all great. And then you use it, and it is a manual process. It takes time. I still try to tell people that it takes time to stick the requirements in here and feel the system and use it and think about what is the outcome that the user wants and how do you improve that, right? Because agents are awful at it. And to your point about, a cheap agent should be able to do the coding. It's the same with letting them just run free and design the UX. Like, you have to kind of set the guardrails for the areas that it's working on. If you're just trying to design complete flows, it's pretty awful. So it's an additive tool. Anyway, that's the way I look at it.
And the further you get down without, like, if you let the AI cook for ages and then you realize it's gone too far, it's very hard to come back and pay the cognitive tax, I guess, to fix it. And so it's very easy to just go, I'm just going to keep hammering AI until it gets it right. And that's where you end up in a bit of a I guess a lot of
It's easy to do
organizations.
that, but it's not a hole that you dig yourself out of.
No,
Yeah.
but it's such a big cognitive tax to pay, right? You're like,
Yeah.
now I've got to understand what it's been doing. So
Yeah.
I'll come back and see if I've got your agent
Yeah.
ready. Okay, that's you. So that's going to assign that phone number to you. So again, like this is like it's a good example of like what an AI native business would be. Like you just said, if you go out and buy a software that doesn't have an MCP or something, like being in this space where you're like moving between systems, and all of a sudden you have to go out to like like a different user interface, and like it's okay if you know that user
Yeah.
interface, but imagine like you leave and then a new person comes in and then they're like, oh, what's this manual step I have to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I can turn this into a
Or
skill afterwards.
or some people, a good portion of their week is just clicking into this thing, copying that out of there and moving it over there and then generating that report over there. There's this low level administration, which
Yeah,
if you've got the
completely.
right tooling, it all just goes away.
Yeah.
So
So here we've
yeah,
got your overflow assistant. It's been created
this
in
is great.
here. Yeah, it's amazing when you like when you're in that flow state and then you have to go back to like these user interfaces. It's just
Yeah,
it
it's
feels
clunky, isn't it?
horrible. Yeah.
So you mentioned before that your website was built by the team. Do you have designers working on it, and how are they using this sort of this stack to produce the work for you?
They are very AI native. So they are like, they're mostly coding in like Cloud Code a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of our focus now is more on the evaluation side. So we got to the point where it's very easy to we've worked on like it's sort of like a production process. Like you want to get a car created a lot quickly. Like the voice agents, we wanted to automate as much as we could here in creating it. So yeah, now it's more on quality gating. So how can we make sure that what we build is like a high quality? How can we evaluate that without like a human in the loop as little as possible?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're building out a lot of developer tooling. And now we're moving more on into that integration of the operating system and the voice agents. Just like you've seen here as an MCP, for us it should be as a dentist. Can you call these three patients and rearrange an appointment for them? So trying to enable those like integrated voice experiences in whatever AI operating system you're in, whether it's our
Mm,
one or somebody else's. So yeah, but they're probably 90% using something like Cloud Code to build, and
yeah.
the
Okay.
rest is like manual stuff. It's pretty
Yeah.
heavy. But we are also at like the very early growth stage. So that would probably, I think that might tail off a little bit. I'm unsure yet. We have like, because we're paying a lot now to get the eval side up. I'm hoping we can keep accelerating on the code side because we have a good
Yeah.
confidence that the system is good. Okay, so
It's
where are we
good.
at? The Telnex is hooked up. Just make this account free.
I
It
also
should be.
find it good when people see the prompts, right? They actually see the way that people working in these. It kind of
Yeah.
demystifies it a bit because in their minds, I think it's this hyper complicated
Yeah,
approach.
completely.
How does an AI build something? No, you just talk to it, and
Yeah.
if you don't know, you just ask, and you kind of work your way through it. It's
Yeah.
a learning accelerator. The amount of things I've learned the last 6 to 8 months has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
I was using it. My own startup. I was involved in menus, and we were using one of the early versions of Midjourney to do all the food graphics for the
Okay.
menu
Yeah.
designs, and also using the early version of GPT to generate menus in JSON. So it would give us 5 menus that have 10 items, and it would
Yeah.
generate
Okay.
those, and we'd suck that out and pull it into our system. And it's just a lot of fun. And it wasn't once you start to use it, you can do so much more with it. But I started to see it get progressively better, and it wasn't until it's December last year. Really, it was Opus 4.5 and Claude Code combined over that Christmas break. I've just learned so much, more in the last 5-6 months of my almost my whole career, I'd say.
Yeah.
It's been
Okay.
a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is like I actually haven't been creating voice agents. So like even for me, this is like learning through AI.
Yeah.
Like the boys have changed a few things since I was last in it. But yeah, just cooking here and figuring it out. Um, yeah, I mean it's pretty like even for this, there is I guess something for your viewers too is we have offered like a referral program for this. So anyone who's good in MCPs can literally make some money for themselves. Where is it here? So yeah, you can either create them yourselves or like refer someone to us and we make them, and then we have like a referral tier. So it's a nice way to make some additional revenue. Because a lot of it is just like the distribution element. So we'd rather than pay Google ads, we'd rather like have someone who knows a company and refers them, and then they make money as well. So the way we're structured, our growth model is like referrals. We're hoping to grow via referrals. And so the way that pricing model works is you make money ongoing as long as, so our pricing model is 25 cents per minute for the AI agent. So yeah, you would make like up to 35% of that ongoing. So we're hoping that pricing model works, or that growth model works. So yeah, if you know any businesses who need a voice agent, hook them up.
I might. Yeah, I think it's a great product. Look, I think we might have to cut it.
Let me try and call you here. I think we're nearly done, and then I'll leave you. 08. Let me do this. Yeah, let's cut it. This is the last check. 0862857062. This doesn't work, then we're done.
Yeah, it's all right.
Can I help you today?
How does your business work? I'd like to get someone in on design.
Let me grab some details about what we do. Then we can talk through getting you set up with.
Yeah, sure. I run a company called Vertical AI, and I'd like to get someone to help me on the design front. It needs a bit of a pickup. Ideally, they'd be working like a few days a month.
Got it. So you're adamant. We work usually running 2 to 4 months. The best next step is a free 30-minute discovery call with Gerard, where he'll scope your project properly and give you a real quote. Does that sound like something you'd like to explore? That sounds like a good fit for a design engagement.
Yeah, cool. Could I
build or improve?
Could I book in for next Wednesday, please?
Absolutely. Next Wednesday works great. I'll need your name, email, and I can get that booked in for you.
Anyway, yeah,
fantastic.
That's sort of like a quick cook up. It's got all the knowledge of your company. Things like that we'd work on then is like, you shouldn't say OBO or FLO, but we'd like add some things like that.
You refine the experience. I mean, what was that, like 15, 20 minutes to go from nothing to a knowledge agent with voice?
Yeah, and that's with like some integrations that were down, which I should have tested before our meeting.
That's all right. And hosted in Australia.
Yeah, all running in Australia. So yeah, it's cool. Anyway, thank you for having me on. I better let you get back to work.
No, that's all right. Look, it's been an absolute pleasure. And it's great to hear about your past as well. So thanks for your time. And yeah, we'll chat soon. So I appreciate it.
Chat soon, buddy. I'll see you around,
Bye.
yeah? Catch you later. Bye.